Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to the finale of our F1 2001 career mode. Yes, we return this weekend here in Brazil, a place that has seen so many championship deciders inside this game and just generally in real life, and this season we have got another one. Yes, 1998, I believe it was Irvine that wrapped it up with a race to spare. 1999, Schumacher would wrap up the world title against Eddie Irvine for his first with Ferrari. 2000 saw Pedro Della Rosa going up against myself and Michael Schumacher, but it would be the Spaniard that would reign supreme. And this season, well, there's no Ferrari in it, but it is McLaren versus Williams there. Myself versus Jacques Villeneuve. We have a 14-point lead at the top of the table. Williams have a 9-point lead in the Constructors' Championship, though, so obviously it could still go either way in both of the campaigns. Basically, for us to walk away victorious today, we need P4. And if you take a look at our results throughout the entirety of the season, excluding the Singapore DNF, we have finished inside the top 4 every single race this year. Jacques Villeneuve, he's had a bit of bad luck in recent races. Obviously, Cota, he was just taken out on turn 1. Mexico, he collided with his teammate Heinz-Harald Frentzen early on in the GP. So yeah, that, we've seen such a monumental shift in results in the last few rounds as well, and it's really worked out well for us. Get yourself subscribed if you're new. This one I think is going to be a banger. We're going to start 2002 as well, fairly soon after as well. But yeah, let's head out then for the final time this year in our McLaren car, and let's try and come back as world champion. Well, it feels like ever since we got that first pole position back at the Hungaroring, my qualifying efforts have been pretty terrible inside this series, but one final chance today to try and put the car right up towards the front of the order, and just like Mexico last weekend, it looks like we could see rain come race day Sunday there, so that kind of works both for and against us. Of course, last weekend we did really well in those wet conditions, but for Villeneuve as well, of course, it does mean there's an extra element of unpredictability as we head into this final weekend. How many times has weather affected the running here at Interlagos, and could it just be one final twist in the tail of the course of this season as well there? Villeneuve and Williams, they have had the best car all season, but they have started to throw away results late on, and it's kind of been, quintessential Williams bottle towards the end of the year there. I mean, I would love for McLaren to wrap up the Constructors' Championship, their first one, I believe it'll be since 1991, inside, well, this alternate timeline as well there. But out of the final corner, up towards the line, not a particularly bad lap there, only good enough though for P6 when we got to the flag, but I'm close enough to the front that I feel okay. Well, there we go then. Villeneuve, the only driver to go under 1 minute 10 come the end of qualifying. DC, though, will join him on the front row just ahead of Frentzen. Schumacher lines up in P4 and a very resurgent Ferrari towards the end of the year. And again, Jaguar, they have just been very quick in these last few races. We will line up P6, though. Like I said, changeable conditions predicted for the Grand Prix. Let's do this thing.
With Texaco.
Welcome along then to the place where heroes and history are made. It's where the 2008 title was decided in the final corner. And it's the place, a year later, that Jenson Button stormed through from 14th on the grid to claim his one and only Drivers' Championship. It's Interlagos, and it's time for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Interlagos, always a very special race here in Brazil. It's a 2.7-mile circuit with 9 lefts and 6 rights for a total of 15 corners. But it's a wet one today, so grip and visibility will be at a premium. And the drivers will need to be careful coming up the hill in Sector 3, the scene of many an accident over the years. And so, for one final time this season, Anthony Davidson joins me in the commentary box.
It's been another great year of racing, but let's not look back just yet. We've still got one more Grand Prix ahead of us. Some of these drivers don't know if they'll be in the sport next year or how competitive their car might be even if they are. So this is a race where every driver should be striving to make the most of it.
We're still in with a shot at the driver's title. It's down to this. Now go out there and come back a champion.
Well, we heard the same radio message at the start of last season's finale here, and sadly, we couldn't quite do it against Ferrari, but I want to believe this weekend things can be different there. Also, I'm going to really miss that intro inside this game. I think that's always been quite cool. And how do they already know who the 2009 champion is going to be? Clearly, evidence there that F1 is a scripted sport and that you shouldn't believe anything you see inside this series. I'm going to go quite aggressive under fueling the car this weekend as well. But yeah, it is just like Mexico meant to dry out as the afternoon goes on. Let's just see what we can do. 5 red lights here on the grid for the Brazilian Grand Prix. And it is going to be lights out, and away we go there. Schumacher struggling to put the power down. Barrichello will immediately go past him, so will I. As look at that, I think that was Wirtz on the outside there, down at turn 1. Getting off to a particularly good getaway there as we'll go wheel to wheel war with the Benetton man. Somehow banging wheels, but both somehow getting away with it. Come on. I mean, we're 2 corners in, mate. We don't need to worry about that just yet. But annoyingly, Coulthard actually, yeah, dropping behind Frentzen. So there goes Schumacher trying to look for a bit of a dive down at the bottom of the hill. We will just about hang on to that. Around his outside there as Rubens Barrichello already trying to apply pressure to DC as well. But yeah, we never quite got to see what the Williams pace was like last weekend. Like I said, you know, I want to win that Constructors' Championship. But if we're running in P3 or P4... later on in the afternoon, and you know Williams have still got a 1-2. I am also interested in my Drivers' World Title hopes. That is the big one for me here. And you know, people don't often remember the Constructors' Champion as well as they do the Drivers' World Champion. At the final corner, though, this is where I expect that Ferrari car to be so unbelievably quick there. Wirtz now trying to look around the outside of Barrichello. In towards someone. We have got to defend from Michael there as already our top 3 just pulling away. Villeneuve, he has got 1 goal this afternoon. He's successfully completed the first part of that. He's just got to try and run away at the front of the order here. Don't give anybody else a look in. And then he's just got to pray that we struggle as the afternoon goes on. I mean, the car is slip-sliding all over the place. But I think we can hold Michael back. The traction control working overtime as we try and get the power down out of the final couple of corners. But, yeah, I mean, this McLaren, we've won the last 3 Grand Prix in a row as a team. Williams haven't won a race since back at Monza. So, again, just a little bit of a mistake through the first couple of turns there as we try and keep Schumacher back. So, Schumacher there, he actually makes contact with us as a Ferrari man. I mean, he's got nothing to lose this afternoon. He's just interested in trying to hang on to that best of the rest position come the end of the GP. As we get another bit of contact there as Fisichella runs into the back of me. But as I was saying, yeah, McLaren, we've won the last 3 Grand Prix. Williams haven't won a race since Monza. So, yeah, really, I was kind of hoping that Coulthard could try and get another win here. And then all we need to do is outscore the other Williams by 2 points. Oh, we've got yellows, someone I think behind, I think that was Hakkinen making an error, and we've got a safety car. One of our cars further down's gone. I think a BAR's been involved. I think it's actually been Jan Magnussen then. Tries to get down the inside of Hakkinen down at turn 1, and one of the Jordans behind him, I think he's tried to send it at the same time there. 3 into 1. Just will not go. And yeah, I mean, that is definitely the Jaguar gone. I think someone else has gone into him though as well, a bit further back. Oh, one of the Saubers nicks him. One of the Arrows cars then hits him as well. Plenty of cars have been involved in that one in the end. That was really odd. In fact, kind of a few cars tried to commit further behind. One of the Sauers hits in, one of the arrows goes in, and yeah, it was the other. I think both Minardis as well have been involved in that. So both arrows gone, and a Minardi, and obviously the Jaguar as well, Magnussen, but chaos and a safety car. Oh, okay. Okay, bit of an interesting gamble then. Alexander Wirtz and Frentzen both into the pit lane then, so I think Williams trying to hedge their bets and go either way on the strategy. Both myself and David Coulthard will stay out there then, so now we're just one spot away from where we need to be come the end of the afternoon. That leaves Villeneuve very vulnerable then. Clearly Williams have the confidence that he can pull away. Well, I've done the maths then in my head, and I'm pretty certain if Villeneuve wins this race, it is impossible for McLaren to win the Constructors' Championship this season, simply because you cannot rely on the fastest lap bonus point, because the way the AI simulate the last lap, it usually goes to a car that's way further behind. So yeah, Villeneuve wins this, then Williams look pretty good to wrap up the Constructors. I say pretty good, it's almost a guarantee, unless somehow DC or I is able to claim fastest lap bonus point, and we'd have to finish P2 and P3, and Frentzen would have to not score. So Coulthard needs to try and attack at the front of the order there, as again we just make a huge mistake down at the bottom of the hill. It is so difficult to try and keep this car in check, but the circuit is starting, just it feels like, to dry out a little bit. I don't know if we'll see dry conditions today like we did in Mexico, but we might see a switch to inters later on. Oh, Barrichello, oh, Coulthard, they've both almost binned it, and suddenly we are going to find an avenue. Oh, Coulthard almost squeezes me off the road there. I just don't think he could see me on the exit of the corner there, and suddenly, whoa! Coulthard, man, what on earth is going on? Schumacher almost collides with us as well. Jean Alesi will get around me, back on the run in towards someone there, and that all got incredibly scary. Our championship hopes flashed before our eyes there, as Schumacher now trying to make the move on the Brazilian at his home Grand Prix. Let's not forget, Rubens Barrichello only ever managed one podium here at Interlagos in his 19 attempts, and that came in the Ferrari F2004, as we will fling one back up the inside of Jean Alesi. After all of that, was still 5th. Schumacher is struggling so much around this venue right now. Barrichello, I mean, that Jaguar seems to be very, very good in these wet conditions there. Got fantastic grip, but it's just generally looked like a quick race car in the last couple of weekends. Could Jaguar be a serious threat as we head into 2002? Only time will tell. But I mean, yeah, the way Schumacher has been able to come back after such a terrible year and is still, you know, looking to finish best of the rest overall, that's, again, the sign of, I mean, this year is a 3-time world champion. I think if we could find a way around Schumacher, just like we did at the start, we would have the pace to pull away from him. I think he is just slowing up both myself and Rubens Barrichello at this early stage of the afternoon. As all Rubens, a little bit of a mistake through Jung Sao. And well, to be honest there, I just ran a little bit wide away from the apex, so that kind of worked out fantastically. They were able to move past the Jaguar. Again, though, that thing has got some really good straight line speed. But we are now up into the position we need. Well, it has been so weird the way the performance has kind of ebbed and flowed over the course of this season. McLaren and Williams, well, Williams has pretty much always been fastest comfortably. But then it really did feel like the upgrades we were bringing to this McLaren car was making it, you know, a very competitive fight. Coulthard, there were a couple of weekends where Coulthard was, you know, out and out the fastest driver. We've had a couple of weekends where we were out and out the fastest driver on the grid. But in these last few, feels like Williams have kind of again unlocked just a bit more pace. Obviously, we kind of never really saw the full impact of that in Mexico. But here in Brazil, Villeneuve is so much quicker than anybody else.
If we just move a bit more of that standing water, we might be able to get onto the intermediates.
Well, there we go. Team now starting to talk about the intermediate tyre as a viable option. But yeah, it feels like in these last few races, Ferrari, you know, Jaguar, even Jordan as well in a couple of places. It feels like more and more of those teams that are like the higher end of the midfield, Sauber and Benetton as well, suddenly now are just becoming a bit more competitive, and 2002 could be really, really interesting. We've got some huge rule changes coming for next season, and ultimately down at McLaren, we have not been able to get all of our parts sorted, so we might take a bit of a step backwards in terms of performance as well. Genuinely, right at this moment, I'm still not entirely decided whether we're going to stay at McLaren. I feel like we will, but I just don't know. Oh, we've got yellows. We've got yellows. Someone is clearly running into problems here. Don't say that's Villeneuve at the front of the order. I think it's a car behind. Oh, I think it was just Barrichello made a little bit of a slip up. I mean, if Villeneuve somehow didn't finish any of the last 3 Grand Prix, that would be such a heartbreaking end to what has been, I think, a resurgence that no one expected this year. Obviously, won 1997 against Schumacher, left to go to BAR and various other projects in the last couple of years, has come back to Williams, and immediately has been a threat. But as we approach half distance then, the confidence in this car slowly building up more and more, and doing so we have closed up to Michael Schumacher there. The pace for everybody seems to be getting quicker and quicker, but nobody at the front wants to move away from the full wet tyres. Team are telling us we will be moving to inters when we box. But yeah, I'm definitely not going to box just yet. The other issue we've got, of course, the intermediates don't last that long in this mod. The full wets will go, you know, most of a Grand Prix. The intermediates sometimes only last about 10 laps. So I want to make sure when we pit onto them, I won't have to pit again. I mean, the best place for us, I think, to go for moves is actually going to be around these final few corners of the lap there. Schumacher just cannot get the line right on the way down the hill in towards Jung Sao. Seems to be pretty stable and is able to get the power down on the exit, but that is where we get closest to him. Oh, there we go, Villeneuve. Villeneuve then is the first to blink of your front runners. Into the pit lane goes Jacques, and suddenly now we would win both world titles. Oh, there we go, Coulthard and Schumacher. So everybody now then is starting to dive into the pit lane here. So for the first time today, we are up into the lead of the Grand Prix. And I mean, I've been looking at that gap to Villeneuve. He came out 5.5 seconds back. I'm sure it was just him trying to get the tyres up to temperature. But he's actually dropped time to us. Villeneuve is setting faster and faster lap times behind, but he's now closed up to the back of Rubens Barrichello, who actually seems to be just closing in a little bit of time against me again. I was originally hoping... Oh, VSC! What's happened? I think that's Hackinen's gone. Oh, it's not Hakkinen, it's Schumacher and Coulthard, so I think our constructors' hopes are going to be over here. As you can see, both of them waiting behind one of the Saubers. Coulthard's going to try and go for it, actually drops the car, and will slam into the wall as well. I don't believe there was anybody behind them when this all happened there, but Coulthard, how many times has he binned it this year? It's happened again. And our teammate, I think, has lost the rear wheel towards the end of that one. Oh, someone did hit Schumacher. The BAR car further behind. If you just take a look here, I mean, he's gone for him. Not too sure what that's all about, but that's a huge shunt reminiscent of 2003. And we've got at least 3 cars out of the Grand Prix, but it might help us. Well, I've got no idea how that was a virtual safety car, but only 3 cars involved in it. But now, I mean, it's... Basically, we need Villeneuve and Frentzen not to finish in the top 3 if we wanted to overhaul that 9-point deficit now. So I think our hopes of the constructors have sadly evaporated there. And I mean, Coulthard, he's pretty much either won races or binned it this year. And sadly, this one was another crash when all is said and done. I'm just not sure we're on the right ones for the conditions anymore. Team suggesting that we make the switch over to the intermediates, but I want to wait for other cars to do it first. I'm looking at the tyre wear. We could actually do this entire race on one set of wets, but the likes of Barrichello and Jean Alesi, if they didn't pit, I might genuinely not be able to catch them again. Oh, there we go, Villeneuve. Villeneuve has got the jump on Barrichello as they make their way back into turn 1. They're still actually going wheel to wheel, but I think, yeah, Villeneuve has made that work. He's got back through and up into P2. like I said, I'm not really interested in fighting him. There's just no point. We have not got the pace to keep up with him. I'm far more interested in trying to keep those other cars back. I genuinely can't remember the last time we had a wheel-to-wheel battle with Jacques Villeneuve inside this series. It has been a titanic championship fight that has swung aggressively in either direction over the course of the season. Villeneuve's definitely had a bit more kind of bad luck, but he has been involved in a couple of accidents that were completely his fault as well as the season has gone on. There's been other times where, you know, that Williams car has been OP and he's just not been able to maximise it as well there. I guess the other question, of course, is where is Frentzen in this GP? Because, say, for example, if Villeneuve needed to pit again, if he ended up down in, like, P5 or P6, they would also need Frentzen to score points. For now, though, Jacques Villeneuve does not care about that. To the inside down in turn 1. I'm going to try and give him a big old squeeze there through the first corner. Park it on the apex through turn 2. We know that Williams has got better top-end speed than our car. It's got better grip. He's got more confidence. As all Villeneuve, he thought about it. We just got a little bit of a wobble on. Of course, he knows the tactics that Michael Schumacher would employ when they were fighting for world titles back in the 90s. I won't play that game. Not today, anyway, as Villeneuve will make it through. And again, I mean, Barrichello is right there fighting for the win. Well, we are really starting to count the laps down now towards the end of this GP, as we are about to start lap 29 of 36 here. Villeneuve still controlling the pace at the front. He looks safe and set to claim victory today. I'm just still managing those tyres. I'm just getting a little bit nervous. That rear right has definitely got a lot of wear on it nowadays. As, yeah, myself and Barrichello still trying to hang out there. So's Alesi and Raikkonen. I'm starting to look at the gap to Kimi and thinking, well, we might actually be able to box and come out back ahead of him, but I just don't want to risk it. I'm so scared that something might happen that will change this race. You know, we saw last year, I mean, we had such an outside shot. The fact that we were able to get the championship to Brazil last year was ridiculous. But, you know, we've had some heartbreak here in Interlagos. I do not want it again. You know what? I'm looking at the tyre wear. I'm looking at the gaps. I think we could end up with a puncture by the end of this race. We're getting 3% wear on those rears a lap. So I'm just thinking now we would be up to about 86% by the end of this race. And punctures on F1 2020 happen earlier than they do on like F1 24 and things. But yeah, that 21-second gap to Kimi Raikkonen here, I just think we can afford to box. Even if we don't quite get out ahead of him, we should be out around him. And then we've just got to try and chase Alesi towards the end of the GP there. Raikkonen has got Schumacher breathing down his neck as well. We need to come out ahead of him. Otherwise, we are going to be in big trouble late on. But, I mean, yeah, even with Villeneuve setting fastest lap at the moment, that would actually mean the gap comes down by exactly 14 points. And I would assume we've only had 3 wins this year. I would assume Villeneuve has had more wins, so I would like to get back to Alesi before this race is done and dusted. Either that, or we try and claim fastest lap off Jacques. As the sun now begins to poke through towards the end of the race, it hasn't quite cleared up in the same way it did in Mexico, but look at that, purple through the middle sector. And we've already taken nearly 2 seconds out of Alesi. I'm sure he and Jordan would love a podium after that P5 finish last weekend. Big points coming for Jordan at the end of the year. But yeah, as long as we can get back past Alesi, I'm then not too worried. But if we could set fastest lap, that would be very handy. At the final corner, then the gap to Alesi now under 2 seconds. So surely we're going to get the jump on him before this race is done and dusted. And new fastest lap claimed from Jacques Villeneuve. So that means even if now we don't get back past Alesi, then we're still looking good to do enough for the World Championship. Ralf Schumacher there has just moved past Kimi Raikkonen. Luckily, obviously, for Michael, that big result last weekend means that Ralf can't beat him in the drivers' table. I assume, apart from maybe 1999, I assume Ralf never finished ahead of Michael in the world title. Maybe actually 2005. Can someone please tell me down in the comments? Alesi really struggling here. That Jordan car, again, is another one that seems to have really found its form late on in the season, but this McLaren is still definitely quicker and on much fresher tyres. quicker tyres as well in these conditions just makes such a big difference as we round our way down the hill. No idea what's happened to Frentzen in this race as well. Lacey again just has a little bit of slipping and sliding through those final couple of corners. Again, I don't want to risk anything. You know, I don't want to end up in a clumsy accident or something like that that could cost us here. With just 3 laps to go in Interlagos. We're already doing enough. But can we just find a way around Jean Alesi here? One of the most experienced Formula 1 drivers of all time at this point. Gets a little bit of wheel spin through those first couple of corners. Jos Verstappen now has found his way around Kimi Räikkönen. So disappointment for the BAR driver here. Well, he's still running in the points, which is pretty good going in that car. But yeah, just starting to drop down the order towards the end of this race. But Alesi, he's wobbling around so much in that car at the moment. Who knows how well Barrichello's doing in the Jaguar up the road. I don't think we're going to get to him by the end unless he gets a puncture. Rubens Barrichello again, though. The pace that he has had today in that Jaguar has been exemplary as well. As Alesi, he's actually pretty good down in towards the bottom of the hill there. Bit of rear locking again as he just slides the back end of that car out. And like I said, I want to get past him. I want to pick up a trophy to finish off the year as well. That's another big thing towards the end of this race there. As again, we just dip a wheel on the grass through that final corner. I've done that quite a few times today. But yeah, that one really just costing us the run against the Frenchman here. But 1998 in this series was just like learning, getting the mod set up, everything like that. 1999, had we not had to reset it halfway through, we wouldn't have won the world title, but we would have dragged it all the way to Brazil for the season finale there. Of course, we had to reset the series after a few rounds in because of some annoying glitches with the mod. But yeah, we would have got to Brazil, but not won the world title, which would have been a shame there. Obviously, that's exactly what happened as well in 2000. You know, trying to drag that BAR to a big result there. As again, Alesi just struggling to put the power down in that Jordan car as Perez. I don't know who Perez is meant to be. I think that is maybe Räikkönen. Don't quite know for sure towards the end of this one. But yeah, 2000, we narrowly missed out against those all-conquering Ferraris. One driver I feel so sorry for inside this series is Mika Häkkinen. McLaren have given him some terrible cars in recent years. He moves to Ferrari, the dominant force inside this mod. Suddenly McLaren get good and Ferrari start to struggle. 1 lap left though at the Brazilian Grand Prix. This could still be critical for the World Championship here if Villeneuve can pull something out of a hat on this very last lap there. I believe he'd win it if he got fastest lap. He would win the world title on countback by virtue of more wins. We've only had 3 all year. 2 came quite early on in Spain and in Monaco, but it has been just consistent results from us that have put us in this position today, and of course helped by that 1 win last weekend in Mexico as well, though. We have never finished outside of the top 4 this season. To be fair, Villeneuve's only done it once, but he's had, I think, 3 or 4 DNFs to my 1 in this campaign there. As Alesi again just gets slipping and sliding. Can we go around the outside of him on the last lap? This could be critical for the World Championship there. Down the inside, we're going to go against the Jordan. We fire it way too deep in though. Jacques Villeneuve is going to take the win, but he's not going to claim fastest lap. That means this move is now effectively irrelevant, but I want to still get a podium. Alesi again struggles to put the power down out of that final corner. Villeneuve is going to take the win, but we might do it by just a single point here at Interlagos, out of the final corner, up towards the line. Finally, we are world champion. Villeneuve dominated the race here in Interlagos, but sadly for him, it is not quite enough there. Rubens Barrichello comes through for second ahead of Jean Alesi there, and I mean, had Villeneuve taken the fastest lap back on the last lap there, we would have absolutely had to send it on Jean Alesi, but in the end, P4 was all we needed to be world champion there. Ralf Schumacher beats out Häkkinen, Frentzen, Fisichella, Mark Genet, and Kimi Räikkönen. He does get a point on the board to finish off the year. Not too sure why Alex Wurz did a 5-stop strategy, But I guess that helped him claim fastest lap very comfortably when all is said and done there. But Coulthard, Herbert, Schumacher, Montoya, Magnussen and Jenson Button all failing to see the checkered flag. But if we take a look then, 1 point in it come the end of the year. But we knew, it was odd because we felt quite relaxed towards the end of the GP. I felt like if we absolutely had to, I could have got a run on Jean Alesi somewhere. And luckily for me, Villeneuve not able to claim fastest lap means that we just were able to hang on there. Barrichello with that result means he gets ahead of Michael Schumacher once more. Ralph in P7 ahead of Giancarlo Fisichella there. Genet and Verstappen both get their Saubers inside the top 10 overall as Jan Magnussen beats out Jean Alesi. Button beats Hakkinen. Yes, that's right. And Arrows beat a Ferrari this season come the end of the year there. Herbert in 15th ahead of Wirtz, Raikkonen and Montoya. And then both Minardis at the rear of the field. It means constructors-wise, Williams do hang on 28 points clear come the end of the season. Jaguar in P3 there after some really good results towards the end of the campaign. Ferrari, they got a bit lucky to finish 4th. I'll say it come the end of the year, beating out Jordan by 10 points there. Honestly, I'd say over the course of the season, Jordan, Sauber, and maybe even Benetton had a quicker car than Ferrari this season. Arrows, though, just hang on ahead of BAR, so it was a good job for them that Raikkonen started to drop back towards the end of the race. And Minardi, 16 points on the board. A decent haul for them, but sadly, after a crazy, crazy season, it still means they're down in last place there. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed. I know this series obviously is a little bit more rogue, but those of you that come around and watch all of these episodes, it really does mean the world to me. Like I said, we'll take a little bit of time away, not that long though, before we get back with 2002. Looking forward to see what's next in this career mode. Honestly, even now, I'm not fully decided just yet, but we are finally F1 World Champion.